Ciao a tutti, sono Michele della Tech 5 Music Academy e oggi siamo qua con Mr. Dale Davis, bassista storico, una vita in tour con Amy Winehouse, Tina Turner, e oggi chiederemo qualcosa a che fare con lo studio di registrazione. Hi Dale, how are you? Nice to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here.
So, I'd like to ask you, what is your general approach to recording in the recording studio?
My general approach, the approach has changed over the years, because initially when I first started out, everyone was using 2-inch tape, 24 track or however many tracks. So you'd go in the studio, you'd do your session, and you'd have an engineer who you do it in one take, or you do several takes, and you do punch-ins and stuff like that. So when you left the studio, you would have everything complete. Since the digital technologies come about, you might do a few takes and then you leave it to the programmer or whoever's doing the comping to edit the whole thing together. So the shift has been from being able to
get it right at the first time.
Yeah, now you don't have to necessarily get it right, because you're leaving it in the hands of someone else, and they might edit it in such a way that you don't expect it to sound like that. It's not necessarily how I would do it, but then the results are just as good. And sometimes it surprises me when you get a great piece of editing. They will edit me in such a way that I thought, wow, you've done a great job of making me sound just not what I expected, but the result's still the same result, because it's still my sound and still my playing in there.
Being in the digital domain, you have, as a mixing engineer, you have many more techniques to mix a signal, instead of on the contrary, like it was like 20 years, 25 years ago. Now we have many more techniques to... Yeah,
but I think with the bass I still prefer the original style of just having, making sure that you've got a good amp sound. I prefer a combination of making sure I've got a cab sound and a DI sound, because the blend, you get the roughness from the cab and you get the clarity from the DI. So I still prefer that way. I still prefer that, your source has to be good. You have to have decent equipment. You have to make sure it's all working properly when you go in the studio, and then you can't do anything unless the source is good.
Sure.
So, I don't necessarily like a lot of processing with digital plugins.
Okay. So you don't like when you like using? Another question I would like to ask you. You are not very fond of virtual instruments or amp simulators, cab simulators. You're going for the analog style. You're going for the true sound.
Yeah, definitely. But having said that, you get some great amp simulations now, and someone who really knows what they're doing, they can make it sound great. I've been working with a guy called Richard Archer, who he used to work with Hardfire, and he's fantastic at getting sounds. And then I've been working with a producer called Mike Chapman recently. He's old school, and his method still works. So there's no real set way of doing everything. Everyone's got their own way, but the end result is always the finished product of the song. So it doesn't matter how you get there, in my opinion.
So, in the live setup instead, are you going for the same setup like always a blend of DI and microphone, or do you have a different approach where you're on stage?
On stage, I prefer to hear an amp sound.
An amp sound.
Yeah, and I like to use a 1x15 cab. If I'm using hollow bodies, then I use a 4x12, and I like to hear the rumble off the floor. I'm not a big fan of in-ears, I do like a monitor and a cab. I think with the bass, you need to hear that initial thump. I know with some people they prefer to go on in-ears, but for me, I'm a bit...
You're going to lack maybe some bass, some...
Yeah, and I like things to be, to feel it, and also I like to feel it in the arena. When you've got ears on, you're limited, you can't really hear the audience. That's not to say that, I should not use it, but if I had a choice, then I'm going for the amp and the monitor sound.
You want to feel on the stage, not isolated from the
because you see a crowd and you react to them subconsciously, and also with an amp and a monitor, there's a lot of rumble which gives you a lot of information. You know, those vibrations, they're giving you a lot of frequency informations on your notes and stuff like that. You don't necessarily get that with in-ears unless you've got a thumper, you know, like a vibrating mat to get that.
A woofer.
To get that information. But it's amazing how much information you get from just a vibration without actually hearing a note. It's just you know, how it goes through your body.
Well, thank you very much for your experience.
Thank you.
Eravamo qui con Dale Davis, abbiamo parlato un po' dell'approccio in studio e le differenze che ci sono state negli anni in cui da quando ha iniziato a registrare alle ultime produzioni, e poi ho fatto un po' di domande, una domanda sul live, se cercavo lo stesso approach, lo stesso, diciamo, sistema che usa in studio. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure. E grazie a voi, ci vediamo alla prossima. Ciao da Michele.